Whoa,
What's going on, man?
we're starting already. Holy shit.
It's been a minute since we've done a Zoom one.
Yeah, it's been a while. Probably since like the deadline.
There's been a decent amount of progress in terms of the series. Some heartbreaking, some probably more surprising than I know we were expecting. Where do you want to start?
Well, we start in Leafland, I think.
Okay.
So last we talked, it was the end of the auto series. We kind of were getting into the Florida series.
hmm
Um, and game one was quite eventful.
Yeah. Um,
Nylander came out buzzing out of the gate. Uh, the Leafs looked really good game one.
Scored very quickly.
Probably their best game in the playoffs, I'd say.
They looked tuned in. They looked focused. They looked like they were ready to battle.
At least in the first two periods. It was a little bit of a struggle in the third, but
Yeah.
um, the big storyline of that game is obviously the Stolar's injury. So I don't know if you want to get into that.
Okay.
Do you
I
do you think this was intentional? Do you think it was dirty? This
do
Bennett
I
on Stolar's.
Do I think it was intentional? Absolutely. Just with the way he just with the way he follows through with his arm, I think it is absolutely delusional to say he wasn't trying to bump him.
How did I know
Now,
you were going to say that?
do I think it was intent to injure? I don't think he was intending to injure Stolars. Like this is where I'll probably deviate from a lot of Leafs lunacy, so to speak, is like I don't think he was going out there being like, I'm about to end this guy's like
No,
series
that
here.
was definitely not the intention. I don't think it
I
was.
I think he was there to bug Stolars. I think he was there to try and rattle him a little bit mentally, not physically.
I don't think he was
And
trying to run into him. I think he was just trying to get into the mix, and that's just kind of what happened.
see if he can get Stolars off his game. Like I
Yeah.
get that. That's not unusual. I don't think that's unusual for any number of different teams. Now, because of the guy that it is, it's like there's a little bit more um there's just a little bit more of a reputation there that it's like,
The reputation is there, but what to play devil's advocate a little bit is the fact that Bennett and Stolarz used to be teammates.
yeah, it
So I have a
does.
hard time thinking that Bennett's going in to take his head off, right?
Yeah.
These are two guys that won a Stanley Cup together, so I have a hard time seeing that.
I,
I don't think it was suspension worthy. I know a lot of people were calling for it. I don't think it was.
no, I don't think so either. It sucks. That's kind of just the reality of it.
Yeah,
It's unfortunate you don't want to see it, but this is kind of part of just a series of unfortunate events that makes Bennett look really bad.
injuries happen, right? So
Yeah. Um, that's kind of my 2 cents on it.
yeah, so obviously Stolarz, you saw him throwing up on the bench. He actually went to the hospital that night. Uh,
Yeah, like,
so did obviously I didn't think it was that bad when it happened, but
and like he played 10 minutes after.
yeah, it was
Um,
a little
it was
strange.
like the
It's
comp.
you know what it's going to be? It's going to be kind of like the injuries in the playoffs last year, where it's kind of going to be a mystery until like the Amazon documentary comes out in
Yeah.
September or whatever. Whenever somebody says something, right? It's kind of while you're in it, nobody's going to say anything.
What did you think of the overall kind of, I guess, scenario that played out?
With this specifically,
Yeah, because everyone's like, okay, a lot of people are saying it was the shot. Like you've taken a shot as a goalie, so
yeah.
do you have more perspective on it?
So they're saying that there was a shot before, I believe it was before
Yeah,
this
Reinhardt like
collision.
wired one.
Yeah, and it kind of, if you look at it, it hit him on the side of the head. So they talked about it on the Canadian broadcast a little bit because there's a lot of goalies on that broadcast now. Jake Allen's working it. If it hits you kind of in the front because the mask isn't, it's kind of away from your your head. It
hmm
doesn't really rattle you as much. It still rattles you a little bit. But if it hits you on the side, but the mask is right up against your side, so it kind of, and these guys are shooting pucks way harder than anything I've ever
It was
faced.
I want to say it was at least like 84 miles an hour is the
Yeah,
number that was like
so
thrown around.
that could have maybe started it, and then the collision kind of made it way worse than what it was originally.
Mhm.
So there's no way of knowing until they say something later when basically we were not going to know until at minimum the Leafs are eliminated, and
Yeah.
even probably won't know until probably next year or something, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, there's no way of actually knowing for sure. Like, could a shot to the head cause that bad of a concussion where you're puking and you need to go to the hospital? I don't know. I can't see it. And maybe it started, like I said, maybe it started it and then the Bennett collision kind of ramped it up. I don't
Yeah.
know. That's a guess. We're guessing, right? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, other than that, Wall comes in and Wall's the guy for now. I see a lot of people really negative about that.
He was splitting time with
You
Stolars
split, you split
all
time
season.
the whole
And it
year.
was
Like, everyone was talking about how good of a situation we were in, and now it's a big panic because Wall's in. I don't get it.
no.
I really don't understand it. Um, so yeah, the Panthers came out buzzing in the third. They kind of had a little push, but the Leafs hold on for game one.
Yep.
Game two, the Florida came out flying in game two. They were after it, and there was a lot. The refs were letting a lot go that night. There
Yeah.
was a lot of penalties, a lot of missed calls going both ways that night. There was one specifically, which Wednesday night, I believe. So we're going back. I believe it was Holmberg. So Holmberg gets hit in the head. The puck is nowhere near. He's just in the middle. Like, I hits him from behind. Holmberg goes down. He goes no call. He get kind of goes down, gets up, looks around like no call. Like, the guy just hit me in the head, and the puck's nowhere near me. So he goes, and it was stupid. He shouldn't have done it. It was clearly a penalty on his part, but it should have been offsetting. How is that not interference? He hit
Yeah.
him in open ice. The puck was nowhere near him. He wasn't even looking at the guy. That's just one example. There was both ways. I don't want to sound like I'm whining here, but that was just like the prime example. Like, they really let that game get out of hand that night.
Yeah. Um Overall, I think that like the reffing, it's just been inconsistent.
It's just
It's all over the place.
it's
And
almost like some refs are trying. Usually in the playoffs, they're a little more lenient, right? But it's like almost like some refs are trying to make it like the regular season, and some are trying to make it like the playoffs. And there's really no, which is that's what you're gonna get. It's
Yeah.
a human thing. It's objective, right? So it's not set in stone. Even though there's a rule book, every ref is gonna be, some are more lenient, some are harder. It's just the way it is, right? You can't take the human aspect out of it.
Yeah. I think the other thing too is just like with the variety of calls that you're seeing and seemingly the different standards, it's just like the guys don't know what to do.
Mhm.
Like what's you need to
Yeah,
give
what's
them
the
some sort
standard?
of indication. And I think the more loose you go, the more it's going to favor Florida just because
Yeah. And
they're going
because
to
Florida is so good at just riding that line.
yeah.
They know how to ride the line, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if it just doesn't come
Yeah.
naturally to the guys on our team of pushing of not only just pushing that line, but understanding like how to navigate that.
Yeah, Domi definitely doesn't. Domi just blasts past the line every chance he gets. Let's just take dumb penalties whenever he can. Speaking of that, Domi, I thought game two was one of Domi's better games in the playoffs. I will be
Yep.
fair to him. I thought
Yep.
Pacioretty, not just because he scored, but I thought he had a good night.
Yep.
And it was just kind of his experience. You could kind of see. Um, and then Nylander, again, the first two games of that series for Nylander. Nylander dominated those two games.
Yeah.
He was the best player on the ice, both sides.
Easily.
Yeah. Other than that, we take game two. Marner gets the winner late. in these playoffs, not just the series, but in these playoffs, it seems like the teams that go up by 1 or 2 goals early are the teams that end up losing the game. It's been crazy.
It's been a lot of clawback. You saw it
Yeah,
in the St. Louis Winnipeg series. You
yeah,
saw it in the Dallas Colorado series. Like
yeah,
teams are understanding and getting really motivated if they're down.
yeah.
It makes for fun hockey. Like makes for
Oh
exciting
yeah,
hockey.
exactly. Usually, at playoffs, teams kind of lock it down, right? But it's kind of been back and forth.
Yeah.
So we take control. It's looking good. Going back to Florida, obviously, you don't count anyone out, especially the defending champs, until they lose a road game, right? So,
Yeah.
and we came out flying in Game 3. I thought we played a very good first period in Game 3.
Yeah.
Um, they got one, and it kind of took the sting out of it a little bit. They brought a little bit of energy in the building.
Mhm.
If we had gotten intermission up two, we might have been maybe killed the spirit a little bit, but they got one before the intermission, and it kind of bled into the second period, and we were probably the worst period we played all playoffs in the second.
Yeah. It just things fell apart. They let them get momentum.
Yeah,
It was just a disastrous
on,
second period.
on their home ice.
Yeah.
Listen, I know a lot of people are critical of Wall. I will defend Wall. Not Wall's best night.
No, some of the stuff was weaker
Not
than
Wall's
others.
best night. But again, it's got to go through 5 other players before it gets to Wall.
And it's just because it's not his best night doesn't mean he's the reason we lost.
Yeah, we still he still took us. He still made some big saves in the third to keep us in the game when we were down still.
Yeah.
Before we tied the game and sent it to overtime, and the overtime goal was just an absolute fluke.
Yeah.
Go bounces off 10 guys and floats over his head. He has no idea where the puck is.
There's not much you can do about that.
I want to touch on some of the goals that Florida scored in Game 3. All right,
Okay.
because 16 is demanding 14 million in free agency.
Yes, he is. That's the rumor at least.
Okay. Now we're going to get to another player that also tried to get 14 million in free agency this coming summer and didn't get it. And this is a player who has proven himself in the playoffs time and time again.
Back
We'll
to
get
back hat tricks.
We'll get to him.
Okay.
Now, Marner. $14 million players don't play this way, especially in the playoffs, okay? Marner, I know all the upside. He's very creative and he makes plays. He makes things happen. And with players like that, you're going to get mistakes. That's just how it is. Creative type players, you're going to get mistakes. And I can accept that. It's the second period. You're up 3-1. You get a pass into the neutral zone. You cross the blue line. You're just crossing into the zone. You're 1-on-4. Your line's been on for a bit. It's probably time for a change. It's time to chip it in and get that change. But no, we try and stick handle through 4 guys on by yourself, turn the puck over at the blue line. They go the other way. Again, Wall should have saved it. It was a tough goal on Wall's part.
Yep.
But this is a guy, you're not 20 anymore. Like, you know better.
You've had not only enough playoff experience, but like
Yeah.
NHL overall experience.
You know better. And the goal to give them the lead, so they scored again shortly after that to tie the game. The goal to give them the lead, Marner's on the ice.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we look at the breakout all the time. Marner's not. If a team is physical and aggressive, when you're trying to break out your end, Marner's he's no use on the boards, right?
Right.
He's a winger, so he's usually on the boards. He gets eaten alive, especially against a team like Florida. So Benoit has to kind of make up for it. Benoit actually does get the puck across the blue line, but he's in a battle on the boards. Marner's in good position. Marner's behind Benoit. He's the safety valve. You got the other defenseman on the right. Marner just stick on the left side. Play D for a second. Wait for the battle. The battle's not won yet. You don't go. You know this. This is not something. This is something a rookie 750K player knows.
Yeah.
You want 14 million, and you're going off for Sunday strolls in a tie game in the second period in a game you can go up 3-0 in a series against the defending champs, and he's off, gone on a Sunday stroll, and they go in on a 2-1 and score, which would have been easily. It wouldn't happen if he just stood there. He didn't need to do anything. He just needed to stand there.
Yeah. I think
it's stuff like that. You can't tell me that this player is worth what he's demanding. This is time and time again proven in the playoffs.
with Marner, it's a lot of like you get a lot of upside, but the downside is just not only way too frequent, but too punishing. Like the ditzy doodling at the blue line on the power play. It feels like a lot of our power play. It comes down to
it's turnover. It's our own doing. It's turnovers. We're static.
Yeah,
we don't move.
No, it's a lot of standing around. It's a lot of not knowing what to do. And I understand, like, it's not as much. It's not quite like soccer or stuff where it's a lot of short passes, but it absolutely has to be movement. You want to see some phenomenal power play stuff. Like, go watch some of these Dallas Stars power plays. Go watch some of the other power plays that, even if they're not scoring, they're getting far more volume of high scoring chances than the Leafs have had. Like, even in the Senator series, it was like, look at their power play. They're scoring like 15 seconds in every power play. And it's like, okay, but that's not really because of like skill or a high caliber power play or Ottawa just wasn't figuring it out.
They did.
So, yeah. And so it's like all we mentioned, like that's not sustainable.
No.
But for it to seemingly be like outside of that, it's insane how poor it's been.
Yeah, pretty much since the Ottawa series, it's been kind of rough in this series.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe a lot of people are calling for the 5 forward experiment to kind of go. I guess it's not an experiment at this point. It's been half the season now, but because Riley has been good, he's been very good offensively in this playoffs. So what do you think? You think Riley? They should put Riley on PP1?
I think you just need Riley, someone who's just more responsible. Because like this is
that. I wouldn't necessarily say that Riley's been great defensively in the playoffs. I think he's kind of upped his offensive game. What I will say is, who you take off that power play if you're putting Riley on it?
I don't have a good answer for you. Like,
because I think Knies and Tavares have been too good,
way too good, and it's just like I don't have a clean answer for you to be like we're screaming for.
Are you taking Marner off the first power play? Probably not.
No, I don't think so.
I kind of, in terms of like the risk factor and stuff like that, I don't love it. But I kind of think that's the only role Marner has really been successful at as a power play guy. Like him on the half wall, it doesn't really work because he's not a shooting threat.
Yeah.
He can't be low because he's not going to win puck battles. He's not going to do anything in front of the net. So it kind of has to be at the point to facilitate guys like Matthews and Nylander, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the only role he's really been significantly successful at on a power play over a longer period of time. So it's kind of like, I think it's worth the risk because if I'm being honest, like, is Riley really that much gonna make that much of a difference defensively on power play? Not really, right?
Not defensively. Like maybe he's a little bit more comfortable just with spacing and management.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
And he's been better at like joining rushes. He's been better at deciding when to pinch because I think that's a big thing with Riley is like he just seems to have he seemingly had some hesitation issues with
his confidence.
Yeah, and so it's like, okay, if you're going to pinch, make sure you're responsible about it. Like, I understand the type of game you play, and pinching is part of that. Yeah. But if you're going to doing that in the right moment, like that matters just as much as you. Because if you don't do it, then you just become irrelevant. It's regular season all over again when everyone is criticizing where the hell is the defensive output in terms of like contributing assists, goals, anything. And it's
Yeah.
been here in the playoffs, and that's fantastic. It's just the power play in particular has so many question marks as to what's going wrong. And it's seemingly like it's not even like you know what I'll say the last game it was a bit better. They were more dynamic, and yeah, they didn't get any, but it looked better.
I
But up
think
in
Florida is just that penalty kill is that much better. It's so much more aggressive than most people,
they know
and
how to
they're
apply
not moving.
they know how to apply pressure really well.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that was game three. Did I have anything else? Yeah, brutal second period. They come back in the third. Riley actually tied the game in the third, and Florida wins in overtime on the fluke goal.
Yeah, tough one where it bounces off.
Game four. The positive of game four is that Wall shut up all the haters
Yeah,
because he was the best player
and
by far in
it
blue.
it,
Blue
it
in
would have
blue.
been 8-0
Yeah.
if Wool didn't do what he did that game.
It was kind of one of those games where you kind of like, oh my God, it's still only 1-0. Like maybe we'll steal this year.
Yeah, you felt like it was possible. You
Yeah.
felt like there was still maybe if they just freaking wake up, they can at least make a game of this.
But the difference was that Bob had his best night as well.
Yeah.
That was his best night of this series for sure.
Yeah.
Florida was all over us. We couldn't do anything. The offensive struggles continue. We touched on Marner. Matthews just can't find the net, it seems. Just the one. I don't want to let him off the hook. It's just the difference between the two players is that Matthews still isn't making those errors that Marner makes.
Yeah.
The turnovers, and he's responsible defensively. He's been actually been really good on draws in this playoffs.
Yeah.
Like better than I've ever seen him. But the offensive game, he's just not finding it. I don't know what it is. It's kind of continued on from the regular season.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, 30, you're scoring 30 goals. Most guys would be like, oh, that's a terrific season. But Austin Matthews, it's like
coming off the season they had, you're kind of like, seems like a dampening.
Yeah. So the offense has really struggled in the two games in Florida. I guess we did get some offense in the first three games. We didn't really lack offense.
It seemed like we had solved Bob a little bit.
Yeah, maybe just Florida kind of figured it out a little bit and maybe hampered down a little bit better. And we couldn't really get into those areas. Like I didn't think Nyes had a lot of impact. Tavares, like those two players have had a big impact in the playoffs this year because of their ability in and around the net.
Yeah.
And even Nylander dictates a lot of play. He was really quiet.
Yeah.
Game four, so it wasn't just him. So I'm not going to panic. It's one game.
It's like I don't know. It seems like Leafs Nation is losing its mind a little bit, and
Yeah,
I
it's
get it. The history is just so frequently. This is
If
hey,
it was like it was a couple like 2 years ago, and it was game after game four, we're down 3-1. That's different, right?
Yeah.
You won both games at home. You lost both games on the road. We expected this. We expected it to be difficult.
it's not at this like state of like sound the alarm.
Yeah.
This is that we're cooked.
It's in the set, kind of in the same sense as Game 6 in the Ottawa series. It's time to put up or shut up.
Yeah.
We're not doubting you, but this is it. They
Things-
put it back, and it's time to go back. You got home ice now. Let's get the building, because the building's been a lot better in the playoffs compared to the regular season. I know you called the building out a lot, which I agree with. But
it's been better. It's been
been
a lot better.
Come playoff time, yeah.
And like home ice matters. It really does.
Yeah. I want to get your take on a couple of things from game four before we move on.
Okay.
So there's a couple of hits in that game.
Okay.
Before we get to the main one, the Ekman Larson one, I believe it was Rodriguez. I could be wrong, but I believe it was Rodriguez.
Yeah. I think I know where you're going.
So it's for sure a penalty. He hits him on the numbers, and he was never even turned, and he hits him on the numbers, and the puck's already gone. It's for sure a penalty. They were talking like 5 minute, and they kind of nipped that in the bud right away. But man, it seemed like people were like, "Oh, that's the dirtiest hit I've ever seen." Blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, it's interference. It's a penalty. I don't know if I'm going that far. And it was a little bit of a flop to me.
Like,
Not a flop, but he kind of laid on the ice a little bit dramatically, and it was like a big ordeal. And then 5 seconds later, he was fine.
yeah, and like I don't know, I think he ended up going to the dressing room, and he had a similar instance in game three where like there was a hit, and then went to the dressing room, came back, and he was fine.
Yeah,
It's when he got the embellishment. Do I think
yeah,
that like
that one was funny too. That was not embellishment.
that was not embellishment?
No,
So I don't like. I think it was like an intense hit, but I don't think it was the nastiest hit on the planet.
no,
I think
no. He
there's a
hit him on the
lot
numbers. It wasn't a clean hit. It's a 2 minute penalty.
based on how Florida's been playing. I don't think this is any dirtier
No,
than some of the
exactly,
hits that we've seen.
exactly.
I think that the hit at the I'll pause there because I'm sure there's more coming. But no, my take is like it's a hard playoff hit. I don't think this is like outrageous for what the standard has been, both for the Leafs and
No,
for Florida.
no.
Give and take.
So the other hit is the one I'm assuming you were getting to there.
Probably.
Is the end of the game,
Yeah.
Domi's hit on Barkov.
Um, is it necessary? No.
No.
Is it crazy? No. Like, is it a dirty hit? Absolutely. So is the cross check that Kachuk did to Marner at the end of the game. It's a hey, we just lost. I'm pissed off. I'm gonna go give them something so that in game five they're off their game and they're headhunting me as opposed to trying to score. That's precisely what it was.
That's the
So
first good thing I've got to say about Domi all playoffs, other than the couple of big goals. But outside of just like physical play, no, I wasn't clean. I don't condone what he did, specifically the play that he did, but I like that he was setting the tone.
it's a little bit of way to match the energy.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
Florida's been doing.
yeah.
Even in the game, the first game that Wool played, they ran Wool.
Yeah.
Like this is not some crazy what the hell, how did he deserve this? I understand people love Barkov, and Barkov seems to be a nice guy, and that's all good stuff. This is the NHL playoff hockey. If you
Yeah.
don't think that we're gonna, you know, match all the stuff you've been doing with Yarncroak, holding him in the corner, wrestling him for 40 seconds, like of course you're gonna see a hit. I'm thankful Barkov didn't get injured. I think that would have been I think it would have been a very different scenario, and potentially if Barkov like missed a game, Domi probably misses a game.
Yeah.
Now,
So he got fined, but no suspension.
yeah, I think that's fine. Again, based on the standard that we've been
Yeah.
seeing, this is not crazy unusual. This is not um obscure for what the play style has been in
Yeah.
this series.
Yeah. I don't disagree. Um, that's all I got for the time being in the Leaf series.
I'm just curious forward looking notes. Like, what do you anticipate out of game five? What needs to happen out of game five? Is this time to sound the alarm bells?
No, 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 no. It's not. If you lose game five, then it's time to sound the alarm. But you definitely need to play a lot better than you did in game four.
Yeah.
Um,
I know like looking at the practice lines today, like OEL missed practice.
well, just me. It's not going to be.
Yeah, I was just like Hakanpaa was playing. I don't think Hakanpaa is gonna
No,
play
no,
this.
no, he's not playing. No, no. I see.
But
I can't. Excuse me. I can't believe the slander on Wall. I know we touched on it already, but I see people online clamoring for Matt Murray. They're like, Matt Murray's proven it in the playoffs. What, 10 years ago?
Matt Murray's not going to be a difference maker
Matt
in this,
Murray
guys.
is not changing the guard here. And look at Wall. Look at recent history. Wall's been terrific in the playoffs when he's come in the past 3 seasons now.
Yep.
Granted, the one game wasn't his best, but he was terrific in game 4. He didn't play in like 18 days or something.
I don't know
3 weeks.
what people's issue with Wool
Yeah.
is, because people have been praising how well he's played this season, how
We've been
he's
talking about how great our goaltending situation is, and now we're panicking.
yeah. I think this is just like Leafs fans looking for any excuse as
Yeah.
opposed to, especially because it's easier to pick on them than accept that, hey, you have some guys in your core four who aren't producing and aren't showing that
Yeah.
this is a deep playoff run caliber team. And it's easy to scapegoat the goalie because they're the one who lets in goals. Like,
The uneducated fan will just say, well, it's the goalie's fault.
yeah, exactly. And it's just like, this is not a thing.
And I'll say, if he plays bad, he plays bad. He didn't play well game 3. He didn't. He let in. I wouldn't say he played poorly. He let in some bad goals.
Yeah, and it's his
he
what?
did make some saves to keep him in the game, but he did let in some bad goals.
It was his second game in almost like a month.
Exactly. So, okay. Moving on.
Mhm.
Anything else to add?
No.
Okay. So do we want to stay in the East quick, or do we want to go West?
Let's stay in the East because I think there's some stuff brewing in the West that deserves its a natural progression.
Okay, so let's run through Washington, Carolina quick.
Okay.
So right now it's after 4 games, it's 3-1 Carolina, and it's that reflects how the play has been. Carolina has controlled this series from start to finish. Washington is lucky that they've been in games, especially game 1. Carolina won in overtime. Washington was actually up 1-0 the majority of the game, but Carolina should have ran them out of the building that night. Washington fought back in game 2, but since they've been back in Carolina, it's back to Carolina dominates. Probably the most boring series by far.
Yeah.
Carolina might be boring to watch, but they know how to win hockey games, and they don't give a shit if you think they're boring. As long as they win, right?
Yep.
That's all that matters. I thought it would be a feistier series than what it's been, because of kind of what happened at the end of the regular season there. There was a little bit of bad blood there. Outside of that, like there has been very low scoring. Freddie has continued to play terrific. And Washington's in big trouble. The number 1 seed in the East is in big trouble.
I think this speaks to a couple things. One being that Washington, as we said it right at the beginning, they haven't had a whole lot to play for.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was the Ovi show. That's fantastic. It's kind of
cool. We're locked in for months now.
Yeah. And I think that you have a play style that is very difficult for any team to play against, especially if you're a team that is skill guys, and they're very talented, but if you're going to match the physicality and the man-on-man,
I would say that both teams play a very good playoff style, but they're kind of different.
Yeah.
Carolina is a lot they're fast, they're in your face, but they're not crazy physical. They're physical, but not crazy physical. Whereas Washington is just big bodies, and they
Tom Wilson doing Tom Wilson stuff.
Exactly. They're physical. There's a lot of traffic, and they're hard to play against. Whereas Carolina is like you said, man on man, and they're fast. They're up and down the ice.
Yeah, I think that just that play style's tough for Washington to keep up with.
Yeah, because they're bigger. They're a bigger team.
Yeah,
you kind of got to keep up with the skating, and Washington really can't. And I think it's more of a reflection on, yes, Washington was the best team in the East in the regular season, but Carolina's been together a lot longer.
Yeah.
Because Washington had a lot of changes. I know it's been a full year, but they haven't played together in the playoffs yet. So I think that's kind of what's reflecting on this series.
And honestly, I respect Carolina a lot just because they don't have a whole lot of egos on their team.
No, zero.
You want to look at their skill guys. It's like you've got Aho, who's very capable of scoring goals, but it's a very four-line regiment, and every single person does their job really well, and they just play hard hockey
Yeah.
to keep up with.
Yeah. And with this rain and stuff, it's only a certain type of player can play in Carolina.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You see all these young guys that have come through all of a sudden. Stankoven came over in the Rantanen trade. Jackson Blake has been terrific. He's on the first line.
Yeah,
Carolina, maybe they're not scoring, which has always historically kind of been their problem in the playoffs. But if Freddie's playing like that and they're playing good defensively, I guess they don't really need it. We'll see what happens if they get through here and they'll play either Toronto or Florida in the conference final. That will be a different beast. But
yeah,
as of now, they look pretty untouchable.
yeah. I think that given the Leafs, if the Leafs make it through, I would have preferred playing Washington
100%, 100%.
than playing Carolina.
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah. Yeah, so there really wasn't that much to touch on. Like we said, it's kind of been the most boring series. So
Yeah.
just kind of run through it. We'll see what happens. I believe they will play Thursday, I believe. I don't think they play tomorrow. I think because between game 4 and 5, they're putting 2 days rest for every series, I believe.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go west. So the last time we spoke, there was a couple of game 7s.
Yeah.
So before we get to the round 2 stuff, the Central Division game 7s.
Unreal.
I think we start in Colorado and Dallas, which was the first game.
Okay.
It was a classic. The Avs looked like they were in absolute control going into the third. And Dallas comes back, and not only do they come back, but the player that had all the headlines during the season, Mikko Rantanen, leaving Colorado, scores a hat trick to send his old team packing in game 7, down 2 goals. He also added the assist on the winning goal as well.
The guy's sick.
Jack,
I'd like to
I think there's an
wholeheartedly
apology needed here.
I'd like to wholeheartedly, and I will go ahead and say, Mikko Rantanen, I'm sorry, buddy. I didn't know what I was talking about. You didn't want to play there.
It wasn't the right fit.
If this is what you can do on other teams, you know what? Do you, man? You have been a one-man wrecking machine. Back-to-back hat tricks against your old team, and just like going into it and making things happen. If you're not on Dallas, I don't know if you win, if Dallas wins that series. Unbelievable, just taking control and getting it done in big games, like big scenarios, looking cool as a cucumber.
Yeah, big in game 6 too.
Yeah. I think we said he was leading points in the playoffs.
Well, he must be at this point. He had 18 points, or not that many, but he had a crazy amount of points in three game span between game 6, 7, and then game 1 of the second round series.
Yeah. He looks so good.
Yeah. So Jack needed to apologize.
Wholeheartedly, Mikko Rantanen, I'll never doubt you again. Play wherever makes you happy.
Yeah. And that's the difference right there. If Rantanen is a player that couldn't get $14 million, and that's a guy who is if Rantanen is a guy who's not getting $14 million, who has produced year in, year out in the playoffs, then Marner is not anywhere close to that.
Yeah. If a guy who's doing this level of production, assists, goals, dictating play,
yeah,
I'm sorry. This
year in, year out, he's been this good in the playoffs. So maybe not this good, but he has produced at a very elite clip. So
yeah.
And he sends Dallas through, and I don't think a lot of people expected Dallas to go through because of the injuries with Heiskanen and Robertson. But they surprised a lot of people. Ottinger had a good series.
Yeah.
And Colorado, listen, I know a lot of people are saying like, "Oh, Colorado feels so terrible now because they traded Rantanen and look what he did to them." I get that.
We had this conversation on Mother's Day.
Yeah, I get that side of it, but I think if they didn't trade Rantanen, they wouldn't have been able to do what they did with the rest of the roster. It's not like it's not nothing against Rantanen, but like you have three players that are going to make big money. You're probably taking McKinnon's arguably the best player in the NHL. Makar's probably the best defenseman in the NHL. Rantanen's kind of the guy that slides out of the three, just because kind of the position he plays. He's a winger. Center and D are kind of more valuable.
Yeah.
And Colorado's depth just wasn't there. It wasn't what it was when they won the cup, and you need it. And they fixed that. Unfortunately, it didn't work come playoff time. It almost did. It's not like they were run out of the building. They lost by 1 goal in game 7, right?
In a very close game.
Yeah. So if, like we talked about, if say Dallas caught Winnipeg and got first, is Colorado losing to Winnipeg in round 1? I don't think so.
No.
And then you go Colorado Dallas second round, and who knows what happens, right? So yeah. I get what people are saying with the Rantanen thing.
You just see a guy finding such success, and the fact that they got the win is just
Dallas in a really good situation to bring Rantanen into, because they have so many young guys that are kind of like on they overperform on what their deal is.
Yeah.
So they're capable of bringing a guy like Rantanen.
Yeah.
So to the other series.
Yeah.
The other game 7, another classic. I'm not sure we've ever seen 2 games, let alone games, but game 7s back to back that were this unbelievable. Again, Hellebuyck struggles at the start of the game in game 7, allows 2 out of the gate. St. Louis kind of has control, but Winnipeg comes alive in the third. They're down 2. It's 3-1.
Yep.
They score to make it 3-2. There's still a little bit of time left. And what was it, 1.6 or something like that? So less than 2 seconds. They tie the game to send it to overtime in a crazy comeback in their home barn. And Winnipeg was just bumping that night. Crazy. And it actually goes to double overtime. And Winnipeg holds on and wins. I believe it was Lowry who got the winner. So the captain Lowry gets the winner. And this is without Scheifele didn't play, and Morrissey got hurt early in the game. So without their best forward and their best defenseman. I'll give credit where credit's due. Hellebuyck picked it up at the end of that game. And he was solid in the third and overtime to keep them in it. Heartbreaker for St. Louis.
Yeah. Like,
what a way to end your season.
What more can you do?
Yeah. You snuck in. You were the hottest team in the league. You get into the last playoff spot. You take the President's Trophy winners to 7 games. You run their show all of game 7. And that's how you lose.
It doesn't feel good. And I feel bad for the guys.
Yeah.
It just is what it is.
Yeah. That's tough. It's a tough way to end, but what a way for Winnipeg.
Yeah.
To go through.
And this kind of answers the whole, like, are they complete frauds? They won. The answer is no. They fought back. It would have been so easy to roll over. It would have been easy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, tons of respect for them. I'm wearing the hat. They're playing right now. They're in Dallas tonight, game 4. Yeah, without your 2 best players.
Yeah.
Arguably, I mean, you could put Connor in there as well, but
no shite. Your number
one center and your number 1 D.
Yeah, to still get it done. That's respect on my end.
Yeah. And St. Louis just did. They kind of seemed like they kind of ran play in overtime as well. Honestly.
Yeah, the first like 7 minutes or so in particular.
Yeah.
They were getting a lot of chances.
I think both teams were a little timid, but I thought St. Louis kind of had the better of the play.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
It was big. It was big saves. They were just exchanging plays. Honestly, it was very end to end.
Yeah. And so Winnipeg advances, and Winnipeg and Dallas had to come off the high and go into round two in battle.
Yeah,
Um, and we touched on Rantanen, and he scored another hat trick in game one.
it does a lot for your confidence just to know you can get it done, to know you
Yeah,
won't roll over, to know that like your team can rally together. I think just as a confidence builder, that's
yeah,
huge.
for sure. So Rantanen comes out flying. He scores a hat trick in the second, turns the tide of the game. Dallas wins game one. The Jets do respond in game two and go back to Dallas with a split. It seemed like Hellebuck was fine because he played well in the first two games in Winnipeg. Game three in Dallas, maybe
Us,
it's not the playoff struggles, maybe it's road playoff struggles because he seems to be fine at home.
which it just seems so bizarre to me. Like, is it that much of a difference?
I don't know, maybe your home barn, I don't know, but that's just kind of the way it's been. I don't know if it's actually a thing, but it's been a problem. So Dallas takes game three. The storyline out of that game was this kick goal,
Yeah,
which was an interesting one. I wanted to see what you thought of it. This was Dallas scored 1-0. So this was Sunday afternoon before the Leafs game. It was Petrovich or Petrovic, however you want to pronounce it. Um, so he kind of it's I don't know if it was a pass or a shot. He kind of receives it, and he's kind of I think he's trying to play the puck with his skate up to his stick because it's kind of coming in with a little bit of pace,
yeah.
and it kind of gets away from him and goes towards the goal. Now they're saying that it's not a kicking motion, and the technical rule is if you direct it and it hits another player and changes direction and goes in, then it counts. But the goalie isn't supposed to count on that. It's supposed to be players. But they're saying that he didn't kick the puck, he directed the puck.
This is where, like, if you're a rules person, you may have a hotter take or like something. I don't know. The whole thing just kind of seems like I don't I don't know. I could see how this is deemed no because I've seen worse.
Oh,
But
it was deemed yes.
or sorry, yeah. But
Yeah,
like in the scenario where it's like
yeah.
if you're arguing for yes or no,
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah,
could I could see either perspective, and you just have to kind of default to the league. Like this is where you go to review. This is
yeah,
where that's the whole point of having it and having a goal room that understands the rules and can make a call. If I'm frustrated if this goes against me, I'm
yeah,
a
for sure,
fan if it
for
if
sure.
it does if it
Yeah.
doesn't.
My point of view on this, I agree with the call because the puck wasn't going in the net.
Yeah,
When he kicked it, it wasn't whether it was a kick or a direct or whatever, it wasn't going in. And then it hit Hellebuck and completely changed directions and went in. If it hit Hellebuck and it was just a deflection, then I can see it not being a goal. But it hits Hellebuck and completely changes direction. So I agree with the call. I don't think it was. I think it should have counted.
I don't think there's anyone who should be overly upset about this. You just hope
Yeah,
the next bounce goes your way.
yeah. Winnipeg fans maybe a little bit cheesed at that one, but
Yeah, it's hockey and bizarre situations like this happen. Um, it is what it is. You can't do much about it.
before we get too far, this series hadn't started yet, so we hadn't made our predictions on this series last
Yeah,
week. We both put the same thing. We both said Dallas at six.
I'm gonna like. I think that that's the most likely scenario. I just think it's tough
Can't
with
alter it now, and it's looking like Dallas is up here. Hellebuck seems to struggle on the road, so it could be 3-1 going into Winnipeg.
yeah.
We'll see. It's only the first period, so tons of time here for Winnipeg, but Dallas seems to have the momentum.
Yeah.
So that's that series. Crazy, those two crazy game sevens. I've never seen two games back to back nights like that, let alone game sevens, right?
Yeah.
So just wild. Well, I was watching that Winnipeg game and just went. We were going crazy. I think my mom said like, "Oh, the game's over." I said, "There's still time left. Two goals isn't a lot. If there's 3 minutes left, that's kind of plenty of time." And shortly after I said that, they scored. I said, "You can see
That's
there's still
one.
a minute."
That's
And they
one.
scored, and there you go.
It's what makes hockey so exciting. It can change so fast.
Yeah,
It's so much easier to cover the amount of space in hockey to get something like that back than it is in other
yeah,
sports.
exactly. Okay. Anything else on that series?
Um, I'm just so curious how Hellbuck does. Like, I
Yeah,
think that's
yeah.
just going to be such an X factor of what type of a series does he
Now that they've
have.
lost a game at home, you kind of need to go win a road game now.
Yeah,
You have to. You don't. It's not you kind of do. You actually have to.
yeah. It's
So
there's no option.
yeah, you don't have a choice. Whether it's tonight, if it's not tonight, and they win game five at home, they have to win game six on the road. So we'll see. We'll see what Winnipeg's made of.
Yeah,
You're playing a team who's been in the conference final 2 years in a row now, who's hungry,
yeah.
and Winnipeg has to prove the doubters wrong, as does Hellebuck. Listen, the game that Hellebuck in game six, we kind of touched. Did we talk about? I think we did. Yeah. In game six in St. Louis, Hellebuck was bad. It was ugly.
Objectively,
We talked about this already, but Winnipeg was bad in front of them as well.
yes.
So it goes both ways. Just like the Wall stuff. If he was bad, Wall didn't have his best game three, but the Leafs weren't good in front of him either. So it's everyone has to play here. Okay. So we go to the last series. Vegas and Edmonton. And this is a surprising one.
Did not see this coming.
I could have seen Edmonton winning the series. I didn't see them dominating the way they have. And not only dominating, if you think that Edmonton dominates the series, you think it's because of McDavid and Draisaitl. It isn't. Edmonton's depth, which was horrible all season, is running the show against probably what is normally the deepest team in the league, but their depth, Vegas's, has been terrible.
Yeah.
Completely reversed.
I know they're missing. I don't think he's back yet, Dorfiev.
I think he's playing.
Is he playing now?
Oh yeah. Did he miss time at all? I don't even know he missed time.
I thought he was out, but I could be. That could just be my brain making things up.
No, he's in. He
Has
played
he been
last
in the whole
game.
series?
Maybe not the whole series, but he played last game. I don't remember him being hurt. Maybe you're, maybe you're thinking of someone else.
I could be.
Maybe you're thinking that because he's been so quiet. He hasn't done anything.
I don't know what the whole controversy was with Stone in this overtime loss for Vegas. What is this Stone nonsense where he went up to the ref and was like, "This loss is on you"?
I didn't even see this.
There's some again. I fall for a lot of fake news. Okay, let's be honest here. But there was reports coming in that I had seen, which was like Stone absolutely freaking out. I tried to look at the play and I didn't see anything that was weird. Corey, Corey Perry seems to have shown up and decided he wants to be a superstar again.
Now listen, he's playing on a line with McDavid and Draisaitl here.
Yeah.
But he's come to play.
Good on you. Good on you.
I don't like him, but he's come to play. Edmonton wins both games in Vegas.
To open the series.
To open the series. And it's kind of like, what is wrong with Vegas? What has happened to them?
Even I don't know if things have just fizzled out or
I don't get it.
Guys are playing hurt. I don't know.
It's really hard to explain. Hill not that Hill's been terrible, but I don't think he's been his best. But Vegas is in a tough spot because you're really going to trust Samsonov,
No, you're not
right?
trusting.
Anyway, so Edmonton takes both in Vegas. Calvin Pickard has a 6-0 record in the playoffs, but he gets hurt in game two. So Stuart Skinner has to start game three. Jack's favorite player. And in a crazy game, Edmonton goes up two. The building's rocking. Vegas comes back, takes the lead. It's back and forth. Edmonton ties the game pretty late. They kind of take it two in the third. And then, kind of against the run of play, Riley Smith scores his second of the game with zero point 0.4 seconds left, and they steal game three. I think Vegas. Now, Smith did have a very, very good game, 2 goals. Draisaitl's probably a little unfortunate there because
Yeah,
if he wasn't there, it wouldn't have gone in, right?
your stick just you're trying to make the right play and just cut off the
Yeah, it's
pass.
tough. You're just cutting the passing lane. You can't see the clock. You don't know how much time's left, right? So it's kind of. But I thought William Karlsson has been Vegas's kind of lone bright spot here. He's been really good.
Yeah, like his skating, the goal where he just goes in across the blue line, head up, like just super solid.
In the first round, they brought him up to the Eichel line with him and Stone, because they were kind of struggling a little bit against Minnesota, and that kind of turned the series around. And then kind of in this series, it was kind of like, okay, we kind of need this guy to drive his own line, so they kind of went back to that.
Yeah.
And I thought after that, if Skinner continues to play and Vegas stole game three in Edmonton like that, I thought the momentum had kind of changed in the series. But game four, Edmonton is just solid again. Skinner gets a shutout out of nowhere. And Edmonton, we head back to Vegas and Edmonton's up 3-1. I don't think anybody saw this coming. How dominant they've been.
Not at
People
all.
would have predicted them to win, but nobody saw them rolling Vegas like they have.
No, I certainly didn't. Like
Without Ekholm.
Without Ekholm.
And with Skinner in net.
The
It's
goaltending,
crazy to say because Pickard kind of came out of nowhere, but
and like Skinner's game back, it was like he was still. My biggest thing with Skinner is like
he was tough in game. He had a kind of
he's
rough.
floppy. He's all over the place.
Yeah,
He made some big saves. He made that diving save with the paddle around the net. Fair enough. If you're getting the job done, it's tough to argue. You're getting it done.
So let's say Pickard can't go game five and Skinner plays game five and Edmonton wins and they're in the conference final. But Pickard's ready to go for game one of the conference final. Who are you rolling with?
I think you have to keep Skinner.
Yeah.
Until you have a compelling reason not to again. That's kind of what it boils down to in my eyes.
If he plays as like he did in game four and they win game five, I don't hate that. But if he doesn't play well and if they win in a shootout or something, then I think you go back to Pickard because he's kind of been, since he got in, he changed the whole momentum of the playoffs. Now, that's kind of what happened in the second round last year in the Vancouver series with Edmonton. Pickard came in, kind of changed the momentum, and brought Edmonton back from the dead. But then Skinner came back, took the job back, and kind of they ran from there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of similar to last year. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I wouldn't count Vegas out. They've been terrible, but if they turn it on.
Never count Vegas out.
So I'm not counting them out yet. Just like I'm not counting out. Honestly, any team if you're in the top 8, you're in the final 8. Even if you're down 3-1, even 3-0, I'm not counting you out.
You can make things happen.
Yeah, you can change things. Change quickly.
Yeah.
In the wild world of sports. So, anything else on Edmonton?
If they can keep this up, like it just seems like a team that is rallied around something.
David and Draisaitl have not been. They haven't been bad by any means, but they haven't been their normal high flying selves.
Yeah, like you had the McDavid overtime rush, but that's not necessarily like it's not the only thing that's getting them games. And you're right,
Yeah.
like it's nothing like crazy. They're just playing well as a team, and it's stuff like that can get you going deep. Is that sort of across the board production, not
Yeah.
having to just rely on your superstars. I mean, not to jump back to Leafs, what the frig is happening with Bobby McMahon and some of these other guys?
Yeah, I think there's something going on there. I don't know what's going on
There's
with
gotta be like some of these guys that have you
him.
expect at least every once in a while to get something going, or
Like if he's not scoring, that's one thing, but just like his overall game just isn't what it normally is.
yeah. So the fact that Edmonton is seemingly putting some pieces together, it feels good if you're an
It
Edmonton
feels
fan.
good. As of right now, it seems like the momentum is heading to a rematch of last year's Western Conference Final.
Yeah.
Dallas Edmonton. So Dallas looking for payback, Edmonton looking to get through again, go back to the final. But we still got a lot of hockey to play before we
Yeah.
get to that. So
Yeah.
all right, that's it for the playoffs. We got some off ice notes for some teams, mostly teams that aren't in the playoffs. Couple signings. We'll go through those quick. Calgary signs Matt Coronado to a 7-year, $45.5 million deal. Comes out to 6.5 per. 6.5 seems high at the moment, but he's a young player, so it could be good value in the future because he did have a good year.
Okay.
Solid there. Carolina extends Freddie Anderson. It's a 1-year, $2.75 million deal,
If Freddie's down to play and he's playing like he is,
and he's earned it.
yeah.
Those are the only signings. Outside of that, there's been some kind of front office stuff. Buffalo hires Eric Stahl as a special assistant to the GM. So kind of the start of the changes in Buffalo a little bit to the front office.
Kind of hilarious that it's another stall back to Carolina.
We'll see what happens there. LA has decided to part ways with GM Rob Blake.
I was curious on this. Is it just because of the playoffs?
It's kind of 4 years in a row now. You lose to the same team every year.
Yeah.
It kind of imploded this year after a very good regular season. Maybe it's time to go a different direction. Maybe because I think they're in win now. Like they don't.
You don't have many years of Kopitar left.
You don't have Doughty, Kopitar.
Kempy's in his prime.
Yeah, they do have some young players too, but once those guys are gone, they're difficult to replace, right? So
yeah, Byfield didn't really make steps in the playoffs this year. Still kind of feels like you're waiting for him.
Yeah, he's a solid player, but we'll see what happens with him.
Yeah.
Staying in California, the Anaheim Ducks have hired Joel Quenneville as their next head coach.
Interesting choice.
So a little bit of controversy surrounding it, obviously, with all the stuff that went down in Chicago. You don't doubt the hockey part of it because he's a proven winner.
The accolades are there. Like,
yeah. It sounds like he's very apologetic for what happened. He has a lot of dialogue with Kyle Beach. And he wasn't going to do this unless he got Kyle Beach's blessing. So it sounds like he did. And he's taken steps, and it sounds like he's going to continue to take steps. So I have no issue with this as long as the person that was wronged is okay with it.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you.
I know it's kind of a cancel culture world, but the person Q seems to have taken steps to mediate that. We'll never really know how much he actually knew at the time.
Yeah.
But he was part of the organization, so he has to take accountability. He was kind of the coach in Florida, kind of when they were kind of on their way up. And then obviously all this happened and he lost his job.
Mm-hmm.
And Maurice kind of took over. So who knows, maybe he would have won in Florida, right? But I think it's on a hockey perspective, it's a very good hire for Anaheim because
Yeah,
the guy knows how to win and he can take these guys to the next level.
there's a lot of good coaches out there, and so for the group of players that are there,
Yeah,
can help them make steps, can help them maybe make this next leap
yeah,
forward.
yeah.
Um,
And he's done it. Like Chicago was in a similar situation where they had a lot of young guys and they took that next step and they kind of took off from there, right? So,
yeah, yeah.
last thing behind the bench stuff, uh, David Carl's kind of his name has been thrown out a lot. Obviously, he's after all his success with the University of Denver and the U.S. World Junior Team, he signs a multi-year extension with the University of Denver, so he'll be staying in the NCAA. He won't be going to the NHL. So
Yeah.
interesting decision, but obviously he's comfortable there. He has a young family. Maybe it's kind of he waits till his kids are a little older until he takes a shot at the NHL, right?
Yeah. Like it's the thing with coaching. You're only going to get better the more you can kind of like continue to stay in tune with the game,
Yeah,
the more the more experience you have developing players, going through systems, making like the guys you're coaching, not all of them are going to the NHL.
yeah.
So being able to put winning teams together and be an excellent coach for teams that aren't always going to be the best, that's only going to make your job in the NHL a little bit more of a luxury when if and when he ever does feel like he
Decide
wants
to
to take
do
a
it. Yeah,
shot. Yeah.
I think it'll come at some point, but I think even maybe it's more of a longevity thing. You're the college ranks. You're going to have a lot more longevity than the NHL ranks, right?
Yeah.
You've established yourself at a program, and it seems he has because Denver's good every year. So he's comfortable where he is. He's probably, I would assume, the highest paid college coach. I would have to imagine.
He would
Uh,
have to be.
yeah, obviously it won't be NHL salary, but I don't. If
There's
you're,
nothing wrong with being thankful for where you're at and just being
yeah,
like, I'm not ready to move on.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Outside of that, the I don't know if you watched this at all. The draft lottery, there was a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
I don't really understand what they're doing. I didn't watch it live, but I kind of looked at it after. It was a little confusing. Why can't you just put 100 balls with a team logo in a spare thing and go from there? You just put, if you have 70% odds, you get 70 balls, right? It's not really, I don't, it doesn't, they made it very difficult. But anyway, the New York Islanders win the draft lottery. And I believe they were 10th on the list. So that's a big jump.
Yeah.
That's a huge jump.
Patrick Waugh.
Patrick Waugh, and then this sucks for Lou because he leaves and then they win the draft lottery. But this job looks a hell of a lot more
That's easier.
desirable.
And I know like not
Yeah.
there's some people who aren't super hyped on this upcoming draft, but it's like any first is a good
But
first.
there are three players who look like they're going to be very good players that could go number one.
Who's that?
You have Schaefer, the defenseman. Who else is in there? I believe Michael Misa is up there. He had a big year in the O.
Are these guys like guys that are going to go straight to play time?
Um, Schaefer's an interesting one because he missed a lot of time through injury this year. Like would have been he got hurt at the World Juniors if you remember. I believe it was the first game.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And Hagens is the last one out of Boston College. So I don't think Hagens will go to the NHL right away. He'll probably play at least a year of college, maybe more. Misa Misa might be at the point where he's too good for the O. Maybe if he's not NHL ready, maybe he's one of the guys that goes and plays NCAA now. I don't know. Um, Schaefer probably would have been deemed the most NHL ready, but because of the injury stuff, I don't know. I don't know what the plan is. They can't play in the A yet; they're too young. So
See how his tryout goes.
yeah, so we'll kind of see from there. Yeah, I don't think it's a bad draft. I think all three players are very good players. I think it's just because it's not like a surefire number one, so everyone is kind of up and kind of causes a big uproar, and people are, oh, this draft sucks. It's
Yeah.
okay. Just because there's not a surefire number one doesn't mean the draft sucks, right?
It's still a great addition to
Yeah.
teams, great addition to just longevity.
Yeah. Um, Outside of that, in the lottery, some big winners. I believe Utah had a big jump. I believe they ended up getting the fourth pick,
Okay.
which is very good for a team that almost made the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so they got fourth. Nashville falls to fifth. Probably the biggest loser is Boston, who pretty much tanked and ended up with a seventh pick. Uh, Buffalo, typical Buffalo, they played themselves out of it. They end up with a ninth pick. So everything else was kind of status quo. San Jose second, Chicago's third. So those two teams will add another good, very good prospect to the pool, and maybe they make a jump next year. We'll see. We'll touch on some guys from those two teams in a bit here.
Okay.
Yeah, don't feel bad for you, Boston, that you were the biggest losers at the lottery. Okay. Um, Utah has chosen a team name,
Yes. And a sick team name and a sick logo.
the Utah Mammoth. They keep the kind of the same color scheme, but the logo is really cool. I liked it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I think the consensus pick was the Mammoth. Once everyone found out the Yeti wasn't a possible,
Viable option.
so
I like the logo.
yeah, it's cool. The Mammoth, it tracks with the area.
Yeah.
Um, I also maybe wanted to touch on the CHL. So the CHL are in the finals this week. Maybe we go have a quick look. Your Kitchener Rangers did unfortunately lose to London in the conference final.
It's a tough team. London.
London is always
every single year.
yeah, every year. So London is playing Oshawa
The Schwa, the dirty Schwa.
in the OHL final. And right now, it looks as if it is 2-1 London, but London is currently up 5-1 in the third period in game four. So London looks to have taken control. They're a wagon, like always. Let's go to the dub. Check out what it is there. The WHL final. Let me find it in Medicine Hat and Spokane. It is a 1-1 series right now. And what's the kid's name? That's going to go in first, probably in next year's draft.
Oh, the one that the Canadian that everyone's hyped on.
Yeah, he is on
Not McKenna.
McKenna. He is McKenna. He is in the series. I don't know what team he plays for, but plays for Medicine Hat. So that's one to watch there. So if Medicine Hat obviously wins, he'll be going to the Mem Cup. That's a big one. The Q, kind of the league that nobody cares about.
Patrick Waugh cares about it. He's got the first pick.
Read everything in French. It's Monk. Actually, you know what's interesting out of the Q? So the final is Moncton and Rimouski, and Moncton is up 2-0 right now. But Rimouski are the hosts. And you don't see that very often, the hosts going to their own league's final. So Rimouski, whether they win or lose, they're at least deserving to be there as the host, right?
Yeah.
They didn't just they're the host and they're gonna go and they didn't get eliminated and then wait 3 months to go play again. Like when the Mem Cup was in Windsor, I worked at the arena and the Spits lost in the first round and didn't play for months, right? And then they ended up winning the Mem Cup, which is crazy, but that's a big layover that usually probably wouldn't go well. Obviously, it did for Windsor that year, but I think most years it doesn't.
Yeah.
Especially if you're one of the weaker teams, right?
Yeah.
So it's good to see a host that is deserving of being there, as opposed to just being there because they're the host, right?
Yeah.
They're down 2-0 in the series, so maybe they won't win, but I imagine that means Moncton's automatically in the Mem Cup. Because if they lose, Rimouski's already the host. So they would be the next team up. All they had to do is make the finals.
So they're just playing for a series here.
They're playing for the Q, but like they're in regardless because Rimouski's in the final, right? I would think so. I could be wrong, but
No, I think you're probably right on this one.
the last thing I want to touch on is the World Championships. So it's kind of just starting. So it's kind of the typical Canada, US, Sweden. They're playing against Latvia and Austria and Italy and all these teams. And it's kind of blowouts every night. Uh, Crosby and McKinnon did end up going for Canada, and Canada has a pretty loaded team. The U.S. The U.S. usually doesn't have a very good team at the World Championships. Not a lot of guys go usually, but I think maybe because it's an Olympic year, maybe a couple more guys are going. They're still not very, very strong, but they're a lot stronger than what they usually are.
Just a little bit more international play.
Yeah, maybe that kind of gets them into the USA Hockey's eyesight a little bit, and maybe they kind of think of them a little bit when they pick the team for the Olympics next year.
A little bit of a showcase.
The big thing here, don't know if this is true or not. This is a rumor. So Celebrini did go, is there. He's playing. I believe it's in Stockholm this year in Sweden. Bedard decided not to go. Now, the reasoning I'm hearing, not that necessarily might not be true or not, but they're saying he's not going to focus on development.
So he's got like a skills coach or something that he's working with.
So if that is the truth, if you didn't go to the World Championships to focus on development, there really isn't anything in the world better for development than playing with Sidney Crosby.
And just getting that international play. You play for Chicago.
Yeah.
How often is
some
it?
Good players.
Yeah. Seems like a bit of a missed opportunity if this is
again, that might not be true. Maybe there's an injury that bothered him and he's just gonna rest it up. Who
You don't
knows?
want the media to go nuts with it.
Yeah, but if that is the truth and it's the focus on development, that's a tough look.
Yeah.
Especially with Crosby and McKinnon there, that's a very tough look.
I don't know who's going to give you better advice, guidance,
Exactly.
and experience.
Yeah. That's all I got, pal.
I don't know. What happens next? What happens tomorrow?
I'm going to say that Wall continues, kind of continues off where he left in Game 4 and kind of plays well again. And I think it's going to be more tight games and low scoring games the rest of the way here, as opposed to what it was in the first 3 games. I think it's going to be low scoring.
I think we're in for a pretty brutal game.
Yeah, it could be kind of Florida kind of maybe go after Domi a little bit after what happened at the end. It set the tone. We'll see what happens from there.
Chuck has openly
he's like indicated on the bench.
Yeah. Stolarz has been skating, but I don't
think he plays in this series.
I don't think he's back this series if he is back.
If at all.
Yeah.
If at all. At that point, he doesn't play in this series. If he's ready to go for the next series, he probably starts. But if he doesn't start that series and things are going well, I think Wall probably rolls. They probably roll with Wall the rest of the playoffs.
And if you're at a concussion point where you're throwing up on the bench, man, take your time recovering. Yeah, this goes beyond the game a little bit.
Yeah, it's your whole life here.
Yeah.
It sucks for him because he wins the job. He was a backup last year on the winner.
You're going against your
old team. Go and win as the starter.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, buddy. You got less than a minute.
Okay.
Soon, so
go puck yourself. Any last words you want to